regular basis to receive the full benefits of your policy and avoid cancellation of your policy. Now you know. IRA, promoting insurance, protecting the insured.
Good evening, welcome to Prime Edition. I am Cynthia Nyamai. Now, tonight I will be telling you why the Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua, has come to the defense of MPs who voted for the finance bill, in favor of the finance bill. And also in business, the government is looking for investors for Telecom, and in sports, of course, we will be telling you all about the safari rally that has also been live right here on KBC. That and more, but first, let's have the highlights. Parliament passes the Finance Bill 2023 amid protest by the opposition over proposals to raise the debt ceiling. Duel with Orengo. Siaya Deputy Governor accuses his boss of orchestrating his impeachment by the County Assembly. And President William Ruto calls for a fair global financial system that will ensure fair access to resources. Brian Muraru is our sign language interpreter for tonight. And remember, we would love to hear from you. You can send us your comments and even suggestions on stories on our channels, KBC Channel 1 on Twitter, Facebook, and also on Instagram. Now, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has defended Kenya Kwanza and Azimio MPs who voted in favor of the contentious Finance Bill 2023. He said the MPs were not influenced by the executive, but rather put the interest of the country first. Rigathi, who spoke at a public policy conference at Pwani University in Mombasa County, also reiterated that the bill, when assented into law, will be crucial in raising adequate funds to cater for development in the country. The bill that proposes, among others, an increase of VAT on fuel from 8% to 16% sailed through the National Assembly on Wednesday night by 184 votes against 88. Give us on Minor now reports.
Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has defended members of Parliament for passing the controversial Finance Bill 2023 on Wednesday night, saying no one was coerced.
You guys in Parliament has done us proud last night, and the other night you stayed up to late at night. Mkanyorosha hii watu ya Azimio, mkapitisha Finance Bill. Na tulikuwa tumewaambia hawa. We had told them.
The DP, while attending a public policy conference at Pwani University in Mombasa, also defended Azimio MPs who voted for the bill, saying they put the interests of the country first.
They know that they need money to develop their counties. This money will come from revenue collected from the people of Kenya. And these governors are realistic. They are real. They know they have a government to run.
The second in command stating that the bill that now awaits the president assent will assist to realize funds for much-needed development across the country.
We want to assure you that those funds that you have recommended we collect from the people of Kenya, they will be used prudently for the benefit of the people of this great country.
The majority MPs had their way in Parliament on Wednesday night after 3 days of a heated debate over the controversial bill.
It is taxpayers' money that has been paying the remaining 8%, and that is a fact. So this 8% that you have been subsidizing by charging VAT on fuel at 8%, on for all the other supplies 16%. It means it is taxpayers' money that was paying this 8%. And this is what this proposal is curing.
When we were campaigning last election, Kenya Kwanza told us when they were launching their plan that the problem with fuel is taxation. We are going to look into taxation and we are going to reduce taxes on fuel. Now today, this afternoon, in a broad daylight, on the 22nd of June, they are telling us to increase taxes on fuel. What a paradox it is, Madam Chair.
The passage of the contentious legislative proposal effectively puts the Kenya Kwanza administration well on its way to implementing the so-called plan. The bill proposes an increase in value-added tax on petroleum products from 8% to 16% and a 1.5% tax on salaries by employees to finance the affordable housing program. The bill has also slapped content creators with a 5% tax on their earnings. The bill was backed by 184 lawmakers, largely from the Kenya Kwanza side of the aisle. It was, however, opposed by 88 MPs from Azimio's side and Githunguri's Gathoni wa Mushomba, who broke ranks with her Kenya Kwanza counterparts on the bill.
If we want to revamp the economy of this country, adding tax on fuel is not the solution. The solution is empowering our farmers, our producers who normally produce crops that bring dollars into this country.
Give us Minor, Prime Edition.
The government has released 16.7 billion shillings for payment of over 1 million beneficiaries enrolled in the Inua Jamii program. The payment, set to commence on 20th June this year, will see each beneficiary receive 16,000 shillings. The Inua Jamii program is aimed at supporting the most vulnerable members of the community with monthly stipends aimed at improving their livelihoods.
For a period of close to 8 months now, beneficiaries of the Inua Jamii program have not received their monthly stipends. However, the wait is finally over after the government announced the release of 16.7 billion shillings that was in arrears since November 2022 to June 2023.
Each beneficiary will receive Kenya shillings 16,000 to be paid in 2 tranches in June and July, being payment for 4 cycles, namely November to December 2022, which is about 4 billion, January to February 2023, another 4.1 billion, March to April, another 4.1 billion, and May to June, another 4.1 billion.
An additional 11 million shillings will be paid as a top-up for beneficiaries of the Nutrition Improvement Through Cash and Health Education Niche Complementary Program. Each Niche beneficiary is set to receive 4,000 shillings as a top-up to the regular cash transfer.
The project is being piloted in 5 arid and semi-arid counties of Kitui, Kilifi, Marsabit, Turkana, and West Pokot. It targets Inua Jamii and Hunger Safety Net program households with children between 1 to 36 months and pregnant mothers. So far, the project is supporting a total of 8,656 households.
Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, while acknowledging the government's commitment to support the most vulnerable Kenyans, said the kitty will be expanded in the supplementary budget to increase the number of beneficiaries to 2.5 million in the next 2 years.
Our efforts to enhance revenue collection are bearing fruits, and along the way we'll be able to factor that in our supplementary budget so that we can make it more inclusive.
He further said the cabinet has approved a memorandum directing the National Treasury to be releasing money meant for Inua Jamii in a timely and predictable manner with effect from 1st July 2023. The Inua Jamii initiative brings together 3 cash transfer programs catering for orphans and vulnerable children, older persons and persons with severe disabilities. Jacqueline Masharia for Prime Edition.
Felix Orinda alias DJ Evolve has told Emilimani Court he did not see who shot him in the year 2020. Testifying during the hearing of a case in which Embakasi East Member of Parliament Babu Owino is accused, DJ Evolve told the court he did not see the legislator with a firearm when they were talking at the scene of the shooting.
DJ Evolve has told Trial Magistrate Bernard Ochoi that he did not see Embakasi East MP Babu Owino with a gun on the night he was shot in the neck.
So, did you at any given point in time during that morning see the accused person, that is Babu, with a gun or any weapon of any type?
No, we were just having conversations.
You were just having conversations. Thank you.
Yes.
Felix Orinda says he had been a long-time friend of the lawmaker at the time of the incident.
I met him around the end of 2014, beginning 2015.
Orinda, who testified via a video link, said he had been working as the DJ that night and the place was not well lit.
Was the lighting as clear as this?
And it's a club, so the lighting has to be toned down.
Babu's personal assistant, who doubles up as his private protection officer, Edwin Gandhi, and Charles Ochieng, who was the security personnel at the Nairobi club during the incident night, also gave their testimonies.
The said firearm that is being alleged to have been used, I personally witnessed it being kept in a safe custody. And I was wondering how, if in any case, Babu Owino got it.
First, there's no need of you coming, let's deal with your personal security.
So this second time, he still had his personal security, the same person?
Yeah. So I'm the one who asked him to, I directed him to just put this to the club and give him his personal security in the form for him.
Last week, the legislator informed the court that he had so far spent over 50 million Kenyan shillings on DJ Evolve's bills. The court has ordered the presentation of written submissions on the 7th of July 2023. Elsewhere, the hearing of Michael Masharia, aka DJ Brownskin case, who is accused of aiding the suicide of his wife, has been set for 12th August 2023. For Prime Edition, I'm Alvin Kaunda.
Siaya Deputy Governor William Oduor has told the Senate that his impeachment by the Siaya County Assembly has no grounds but a political witch hunt orchestrated by the governor. Appearing before the Senate Special Committee, the Oduor denied all 4 allegations leveled against him, saying the goal is to hound him out of office.
He doesn't even report to me.
Embattled Siaya Deputy Governor William Oduor says he is innocent and that he never initiated the 18 million shilling renovation of his office.
I was not involved at all. I only showed the chief officer, governors, the extent of renovations.
The controversial renovation included a chair bought at 1.1 million shillings and office soundproofing at 2 million shillings.
Are these your words?
Yes.
Does it show involvement?
No.
In terms of identification, it doesn't show.
No.
You did not point out anything about your furniture in the office?
I expressed the need, and the extent of need was determined by the chief officer.
The deputy governor told the senators that his relationship with the governor James Orengo took a turn after he began raising issues of integrity in the procurement processes and impressed.
Siaya County has deliberately refused to set limits on interest. They do not have limits on interest. Interest can never be more than 500,000. We withdraw 4 million every 2 to 3 days.
The deputy governor says his differences with the governor also stem from reinstatement of staff with integrity issues and the attempt to service questionable pending bills amounting to 176 million shillings.
Nothing stops me from working with Governor Rengo. And for me, service delivery is sacrosanct. In fact, the first 3 months, we wore the same ties, same suits. We were like Siamese twins with my friend James Orengo. Nothing stops us from going back there. The issues that we have are governance.
This special committee is expected to table its report in the Senate next week, Monday. Gishoki Washira, Prime Edition.
President William Ruto has called for a fair global financial system that will ensure fair access to resources. Speaking on Thursday during a roundtable with the President of France, Emmanuel Macron, and global financial lenders, President Ruto explained that resources should neither be controlled by the World Bank nor the International Monetary Fund, but rather by a new financial model where power is decentralized from the hands of the few.
President William Ruto says Africa does not want anything for free and that there is a need for a new financial model where power is not in the hands of the few. The head of state says such a move will ensure fair access to resources. President Ruto said the globe cannot continue normally when things are not going forward. He was speaking on Thursday during a roundtable with President of France, Emmanuel Macron, International Monetary Fund Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva, and the President of the World Bank Group, Ajay Banga, in the ongoing New Global Financial Pact Summit in Paris. Earlier, President Ruto held talks with the President of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, where they agreed to explore new areas of cooperation, such as trade and agriculture. Alanauko, Prime Edition.
The government is scouting for a potential investor for Telecom. That and more coming up. But first, let's have the break.
Are you a holder of unclaimed financial assets? Surrender unclaimed financial assets today and avoid the last-minute rush. Take advantage of penalties and fines waiver ending June 30th, 2023. Report and surrender unclaimed financial assets today. For more information, visit our website www.ufaa.go.ke/holders or contact us through holders@ufaa.go.ke or call us on 020-402-3000. Do not wait for the June 30th, 2023 deadline. Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority. Receive, safeguard, reunite.
Cheza Loto Moto.
Kwa majina naitwa Alex Odur, natoka Kamulu. Na show leo imekuwa poa. Nilikuja na confidence nikijua naenda kuwin. Na nimewin 100,000 hizi hapa. Wale wanacheza Loto Moto waendelee, ni kitu ya ukweli. Loto Moto, endelea kucheza kila siku.
Usisahau kucheza Loto Moto. Shinda milioni 2 kila siku kwenye M-Pesa. Chagua lipa na M-Pesa. Paybill number, weka 757070. Account number, andika neno Loto. Weka kiwango chochote cha pesa kuanzia shilingi 50 hadi 2,000. Lipa, kisha subiri draw.
Inama osha. Muone.
Chris, mimi nafanya kazi hapa kama maid.
Boss, umepatikana.
I think that's a good idea, please. Mimi please. Nipe siku moja nitataka kuwa na familia yangu.
Sijakataa. But ni chali Cindy. Yaani wewe ukiniambia hapo unaenda kanisani, kumbe unaenda kuzurura na wanaume? Naongea na wewe.
I don't want anything to do with that girl. Sawa?
Chris.
Welcome back. Legislators from the National Assembly have faulted a proposal in the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill 2023, where Treasury wants Parliament to give it room to breach public debt threshold and explain the cause to Parliament. The bill, which is currently in its second reading stage, also proposes that the advisory role of a public debt management office be extended by Treasury to Parliament as well. In its report, the Public Debt and Privatization Committee, led by its Vice Chair, Makali Mulu, rejected the two proposals, asserting Parliament's exclusive mandate in discharging those roles. Those supporting the proposals have argued that Kenya should change from having an absolute figure as the debt limit to a 55% ratio of the gross domestic product. A debate on the bill is set to resume next Tuesday.
What this second part is saying is, honorable members, as Parliament, we have been asked or been coerced to allow our power be exercised by Treasury. What they are saying is, we allow the CS Treasury to breach the law, and then he can come to explain to us.
If you allow me to speak to the second objective of this bill, which is to migrate us from the absolute figure of a debt ceiling that we have been using in terms of measuring our debt carrying capacity to a threshold, which is popularly or otherwise known as a debt anchor. And the proposal for an economy like ours would be a debt anchor of about 55%, and that is what this bill is proposing, a debt anchor of 55%. Plus or minus 5%.
What really made me a bit unhappy was where there was a proposal that the Cabinet Secretary would just make a report to Parliament, not even seeking post facto approval, just making a report. But Mr. Speaker, even as we move to GDP, we need to be clear as a country on how do we measure the GDP of this country. I think it is controversial, and if we are going to peg our debt to GDP, then we need to have harmony and agreement on the same.
There's need to manage our debt depending on our carrying capacity. And given that we are going the IMF way and World Bank way, the so-called Bretton Woods institutions, then it is important that we regulate our borrowing depending on our carrying capacity, and that's why a threshold of 55% debt anchor is being proposed.
The challenge we have, honorable members, by the time we were interacting with Treasury, our net present value was 60%, which already means we have already breached. We are above the 55. As I'm talking to you now, and you had the chair budget explain, we are at 62.5%. So the question in the committee we have been asking ourselves is, do we legislate when we already know that we have breached this position?
There are only two options to reduce this 62% to 55 to 60%. You either reduce the borrowing or grow the GDP. So, and because we're not increasing borrowing, then you certainly have to grow the GDP. Now, this growth in GDP will actually mean that we are creating more jobs, that we are collecting more revenues.
Halo? Hello, Mike uko wapi? Kwa karibu kwanza Harambe. Tunajua mali John anaishi nyumba iliporomoka. Ana chochote.
Niliambia Jona hame kitambo sana. Hiyo nyumba ikujengwa vizuri, ilikuwa na crack mwezi wa pili.
Tumsaidie. Alipoteza kila kitu. Fridge hadi patipati. Hata anaishi kwangu. Kwanza anatumia curtains kama blanketi.
Hata huko na engineer.
Juu ya kujaribu kusave shilingi 2, amepoteza life savings zake zote.
Kabla ya kuanzisha mradi wowote wa ujenzi, unatakiwa kusajili mjengo wako na NCA. Wasilisha ramani zilizoidhinishwa na ratiba ya wataalamu wa ujenzi utakaohusisha wakiwemo kontrakta na mafundi waliyesajiliwa na NCA. Wajibika. Jenga haki, epuka hasara, okoa maisha. Jenga haki na NCA.
Kurumisha ndege. Aviator instant game. Be a daring pilot and earn by how much high you can lift the plane.
The higher you fly, the higher your win. The sky is the limit. Mozart Bet.
Welcome to East Africa. This is Safari Rally Kenya.
The WRC Safari Rally is set for June 22nd to June 25th in Naivasha. This year's event, the 7th leg of the WRC calendar, consisting of 19 stages, will see drivers, among them defending champion and series leader Khalid Vanpera, battle in what's considered as the toughest rally in the world. KBC Channel 1 will bring the action to your living room, where a total of only 5 stages will be broadcast live on KBC Channel 1 and the Shakedown exclusive on our Facebook page. Catch the WRC Safari Rally on KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Welcome back. It's now time for business. The government is scouting for a strategic investor to bail out Telecom Kenya following the acquisition of the telco last year to reduce the risk of spying of critical government information. Information Communication and the Digital Economy Cabinet Secretary Eliud Awalo says the government is exploring spending 7.2 billion shillings from national coffers to offer the telcos a debt.
The financial status of Telecom Kenya is still in the red, even after the government bought back 60% stake from Helios Investment Group. The government is now scouting for a strategic investor who will take over the 7.2 billion shillings debt owed by Telecom Kenya.
Telecom has a lot of problems, and those problems were caused by many people. So as you resolve this problem, there are moves to probably look for a different strategic partner for Telecom.
Kisiangani says the legal status of Telecom Kenya is still contestable as the transaction was not completed, forcing American Towers Company to shut down critical infrastructure that are of national security nature. Telecom Kenya owns 723 towers which are transferred to American Tower Corporation.
We are in a situation where Telecom is not able to pay. We are exploring ways and means of getting support or intervention from the National Treasury, if any.
Owalo appealed to Parliament to relook at the privatization policy to prevent a reoccurrence of the same.
So what I'm saying in short, Mr. Chairman, that we may need a time when we sit down and think together so that we see ways and means of serving Telecom.
Telecom houses across the country, the fiber cables that are under Telecom should never be privatized. They are being used by our military, the police, and then you give the towers to American Towers and they access information which is taken abroad. It was a criminal act.
Legislators are also concerned about rising cases of hacking and other forms of cybercrime.
We do have facilities that allow us to protect customer data like cybersecurity and so on.
Owalo said the cost of calls will from next month be lower when the mobile termination rate is further reduced. Pauline Kihali for Prime Edition.
The government will increase funding to the arid and semi-arid regions in the country to accelerate socio-economic development. Speaking during the 6th Annual Kenya Institute for Public Policy, Research and Analysis, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua says more resources will be channeled towards infrastructural development and efforts to boost peace and stability in the region. Experts say various economic activities such as livestock farming, tourism, beekeeping and fisheries, amongst others, are yet to be fully exploited to boost food production and income among other local communities.
Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua says the government will increase funding to the region to address inequalities and vulnerabilities in arid and semi-arid lands.
The future of our food security
and the existence of our very country is domiciled in the ASAL areas. And therefore, this partnership with KIPRA to develop policy on the possible interventions to turn the ASALs from a food deficit area to a surplus one is the panacea for sorting out not only our food security, but our economy as a country.
Gachagua says the government has already established the State Department for ASALs and regional developments to coordinate overall planning and development of policies for arid and semi-arid lands.
The lands are vast, the climate is right, the soils are good. All we need is water, roads, security, and the right interventions. And then we don't have to beg again.
The government targets to plant 15 billion trees by the year 2032, and our ASALs offer the best option for this ambitious undertaking.
Policymakers converging in Kilifi County to craft strategies on how to change the fortunes of the regions. Experts have called for coordinated efforts to help the region exploit its natural resources.
For Kenya to achieve food security, it is important that ASAL areas are exploited in terms of crop production, livestock production, apiculture, fisheries, and many other.
If the recommendations of the conference are implemented, it will help the government see a difference in the conditions of the ASAL areas of this country.
What we are trying to build is resilience. It's because we have been in office 8 months. We could not prepare enough dams or water tanks, but in this financial year, we'll invest a lot on water harvesting.
The policymakers are, however, hopeful the proposed 15.7 billion shillings budget allocations to the region will jumpstart the economies of the region.
The idea of the mega dams that the Kenya Kwanza government has been talking about needs now to be fast-tracked so that we can reserve, or rather harness or harvest those waters of the rains before the next drought comes in.
We thank the government with the project of Bagamoyo, first one. The one is going on now, which is now going to be Mombasa, Mutwapa, Kilifi, and Malindi. This will help the county significantly on opening up the potential of investment.
KIPRA Executive Director Rose Ngugi maintains cross-border trading between the counties will help revenues which will be invested in critical infrastructures such as water systems. Juni Karisa Mbele from Kilifi County.
The government should step up awareness and outreach campaigns aimed at promoting uptake of STEM fields by females. Speakers at the Africa Scientist Week backed mentorship from role models to fuel the passion of young girls. Here is Trevor Ngeno with the details.
In line with this year's Africa Science Week theme dubbed Breaking Barriers Through Inspiring Scientific Excellence, conveners gathered at the PC Kinyanjui Technical Training Institute with Day 4 of the annual flagship celebration of scientific achievements in Africa, focusing on robotics and its potential to break barriers and inspire excellence in the field.
We are focusing on skills that will enable people to come up with solutions to the needs of our country.
When it comes to robotics, it can enhance our systems, our industries to shift to a more effective way, because robots make systems effective.
They said the science, technology, engineering and mathematics fields that have historically been male-dominated could be addressed through mentorship and skilling young people to tackle real-world challenges.
The numbers in the engineering in Kenya today, we just have 7.3% of the engineers in Kenya. Only those are women, so the rest are men. So we are really working towards encouraging more women to take STEM subjects.
And this is a strategy to expose and encourage the female trainees to undertake these courses.
I've really been wishing to be a designer, the person who makes clothes, a designer. But what I really wanted to invent is that I wouldn't be using much energy. So I wanted to use a robot to help me in making the clothes. That's why I've always been trying to design also the robot so that it can give me the creativity to also be sure while designing the clothes.
I used to overthink about robots, really. And I thought like boys are the ones that are mostly interested in things about robots, but today I've learned a lot. It's really easy, really basic. It's just that you should just be interested in it and you can do it.
The students from different schools had a chance to inspire others and ignite a passion for science and technology. These creations are nothing short of impressive, and through the knowledge that the students have gained here on the principles of mechanical engineering, electronics and coding, the students can now move from making simple line-following robots to even more complex humanoid prototypes. Trevor Ngendo for Prime Edition, Nairobi.
Huchagui familia yako, ni zawadi ya Mungu kwako kama ulivyozawadi kwao. Iwapo unakohoa, unahisi uchungu kwenye kifua, uchovu kila wakati, joto jingi mwilini, unakosa hamu ya kula au kupoteza uzito haraka bila kukusudia na kutokwa na jasho jingi usiku, waweza kuwa waugua TB. Nenda hospitalini ukapimwe. Ikibainika ya kwamba ni TB, utapewa dawa, na ukimeza vizuri ulivyoshauriwa na daktari, utapona. TB yaweza kuangamiza jamii yako. Usikubali. Matibabu ni bila malipo katika hospitali zote za serikali.
Cheza Loto Moto 1,100.
Kwa majina naitwa Alex Odur, natoka Kamulu, na show leo imekuwa poa. Nilikuja na confidence nikijua naenda kuwin, na nimewin 100,000 ndio hizi hapa. Wale wanacheza Loto Moto waendelee, ni kitu ya ukweli. Loto Moto, endelea kucheza kila siku.
Usisahau kucheza Loto Moto. Shinda milioni 2 kila siku kwenye M-Pesa. Chagua lipa na M-Pesa. Paybill number, weka 757070. Account number, andika neno Loto. Weka kiwango chochote cha pesa kuanzia shilingi 50 hadi 2,000. Lipa, kisha subiri draw.
The global tourism market is expected to rebound to pre-pandemic levels by the end of this year. And according to the United Nations World Tourism Organization, the market is expected to see business worth about $3.5 trillion. Kenya is angling for a piece of the pie.
We've done well in terms of recovery, and we're putting forward strategies so that we can rebound back to 2019 levels and numbers, which was 2.4.
This week on Inside Government, we are talking to Cabinet Secretary in the Ministry of Tourism, Penina Malonza. She will be explaining to us the strategies that Kenya has put in place to tap 5 million visitors by the year 2027. Watch the conversation right here on KBC Channel 1 with me, O'Brien Kimani.
Welcome back. Is the world staring at a meatless future? A future where meat will be made in labs and from plants? Well, this possibility is becoming a reality with each passing day. More and more people are abandoning animal meat and embracing plant-based meat substitutes. In Europe and North America, outlets selling burgers, tortillas, pies, and other favorite snacks that are made from the plant is on the rise. Brian Kimani reports.
Sometimes looks can be deceiving, and this is at play here. From a distance, this looks like your ordinary snack joint. But the snack is different. It's a plant-based hot dog. Yes, I'm right. However, there are no animal products here. It's a combination of soybeans, wheat, peanuts, tomatoes, celery and other plant ingredients. Even the mayonnaise and tomato sauce is 100% plant-based, according to the makers of the hot dog safe movement.
This is made from plants, so we have soy-based hot dogs now with us, and you have different kinds and different brands who make it from different ingredients. But the ones that we have are made from soy, and this is not the soy that is grown in the rainforest, but we have a sustainably grown European-based soy.
The organization is advocating for a radical shift in human being diets. This is part of a growing movement of greeners who are advocating for a world without animal products. At the United Nations headquarters in the city of Bonn, Germany, the organization has been busy the whole week dishing out hot dogs made from meat alternatives like wheat, soya and even rice. The movement says the numbers have been soaring. Each day, Lisa and her team have been distributing over 100 hot dogs to people visiting the UN headquarters. On one hand, their desire is fired by ending animal cruelty, while on the other, it is the growing chorus to reduce green gas emissions.
We are asking politicians to facilitate a shift away from animal agriculture and to support sustainable plant-based farming to save our climate, the animals and human health.
Scientists say that 15% of global green gas emissions come from raising meat. The World Health Organization says producing 100 grams of protein from beef produces 25 kilograms of green gas emissions. On the other hand, meat substitutes like plant-based meat have green gas emissions 40 to 90% less than animal meat. Plant-based meat is supposed to look, cook, taste and cost like animal meat. However, the drive to increase production and consumption of second-generation meat is being hampered by cost.
And it's like you have different prices for animal-based and you have different prices for plant-based, but the costs are similar. So we have in our minds most of the time that it's much more expensive to have plant-based food, and it can be more expensive, but it's definitely not always the case. Like, I'm from the Netherlands, and there's loads of plant-based foods that are a lot cheaper than the animal-based foods. Of course, you can have the cheapest foods. The staples would be like lentils and beans and rice and things like that.
And these days of belt-tightening initiatives, many people would think twice before making the big switch. But Lisa from the Safe Movement says price difference may not be a major challenge, like changing people's mindset and cultural beliefs. Lisa believes the future will see more people abandoning animal-based products and making the switch to plant-based alternatives. But for now, her organization will continue to appeal to omnivorous to develop a taste bud for plant-based meat.
This is the first time I'm coming across this concept of plant-based hot dogs. I haven't tasted yet, but from the look of things, it looks absolutely amazing. I'm about to taste it, and I'll tell you whether this is indeed the way to go. The future is here. Plant-based hot dog. It's the whole concept of saving the world and also saving your health. O'Brien Kimani from the city of Bonn in Germany.
Just did a poll here in studio. Out of 5 people just around me, none of them want to try a diet without meat. But moving on, amid the rise in cost of power, the residents of Gekeo village in Murang'a County are enjoying cheap power courtesy of a hydro-solar power plant developed by Migiri Hydroelectricity, developed at a cost of 105.7 million shillings through funding of the National Environment Trust Fund. The 0.5 megawatt power plant has supplied electricity to more than 2,000 households.
For hundreds of years, River Gondo has been flowing from the Aberdare Range into River Mathioya, providing fresh water for households, livestock, and for farming for Mihuti village in Murang'a County. However, for a young, curious innovator then, there wasn't tapped power to be harnessed, and so his dream began with a bicycle motor.
The idea of Magiro hydropower, it came up from the bicycle dynamo, because I see if the bicycle dynamo, it is producing the energy that can be able now to be seen during the night. What if I can use that idea of the bicycle dynamo to transform the community?
At Mihuti village in Murang'a County lies a hybrid power station unlike any other. The containerized hydro-solar power station is the final product of a combined effort of John Magiro and financiers, the National Environment Trust Fund, Worldwide Fund for Nature, the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, and Hydrobox NV, an equity investor from Belgium who helped realize Megiro hydroelectricity.
It has profound consequences for rural life, as well as addressing issues of climate change, sustainability, and a greener future. And it's amazing proof that those issues will only be tackled if we all play our small or not so small parts together.
This project clearly demonstrates the power of public-private partnerships in achieving goals that would otherwise be near impossible if pursued individually.
The containerized green energy power station, which is the first of its kind in Kenya, was developed at a cost of 105.7 million shillings with additional funding from Belgium's FinExpo.
There is a creativity in the sense that power is not going into wastage. We are able to automatically switch off the power when the community requires the power, when the other users uses the power.
I think by the next year also 2 projects will be joining like this one that we are using, because also we have another project that it is under construction. Within 3 months it will be ready.
The power plant, which will be scaled to power 3,000 households, is supplying electricity to primary and secondary schools in the area, a data center, and a tea factory at a tariffs 25% lower than what consumers connected to the national grid pay.
Rates are between 10 and 20% lower than KPLC. We can realize that by operating in a very lean way.
Through containerized hybrid hydro-solar power technology, developer Hydrobox is targeting to reach more than 1 million people by harnessing mini and micro hydropower generation across small rivers.
Animal welfare activists are calling on the Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Mithika Linturi to extend the ban on the slaughter of donkeys and export of beast of burdens products. Alliance of Donkey Welfare Organization in Kenya chairperson Titus Sagala is calling for a 15-year ban to help replenish donkey numbers that had drastically reduced.
Kenya exported 5.6 tons of skins and hides worth 292 million shillings last year. Animal welfare activists claim the trade of hides and skin is mainly dominated by illegal donkey skin sellers after the closure of 4 donkey abattoirs.
Demonstrate unity with other African countries that are urging the African Union member states to ban the donkey skin trade and slaughter for at least 15 years, allowing for research and development of donkey production and productivity.
Alliance of Donkey Welfare Organizations in Kenya want the government to extend the ban on the slaughter of donkeys and export of its products to 15 years to replenish the donkey population that has decreased by nearly half to 1 million animals currently.
The over 300,000 donkeys slaughtered generated a gross revenue of 1.82 billion shillings. If only 25% of the 300,000 donkeys were working donkeys, then there was a foregone revenue of 28.3 billion.
The welfare wants the government to fully implement the ban. Farmers have argued that cases of theft of the beast of burden have drastically reduced after the closure of donkey abattoirs in the country, and are opposed to a call by Mogotio MP Ruben Kibirok to reopen the 4 donkey abattoirs in the country.
Punda si kitu ya kuchinjwa, ni ya kufanyia sisi kazi, kubeba maji, kubeba kuni, kubeba chakula ya ng'ombe, kubeba kila kitu. Utajiri yetu ndio iko kwa punda kwa kufanya kazi.
Hawa wanyama ndio wanatumika na vijana kuchotea maji na wanajipatia riziki kila siku. Unapata huyo kijana kupitia huyo punda anapata almost 5,000 to 6,000 a day. Je, tukichinja huyu mnyama tunaleta umasikini Kenya ama tunaleta faida Kenya?
Benson Ruba reporting for Prime Edition.
African countries have been urged to increase investment in natural gas exploration since it is a cleaner source of energy. African Energy Chamber Chairperson Nji Ayuk says the continent is in its development stage and should be allowed to harness its natural resources to benefit its people. Ayuk was speaking at a roundtable by Gazprom, which is part of events in the lead-up to the Russia-Africa Summit slated for next month in Russia. The rising cost of fire. Residents of Gikeo village, or rather actually we had that story before, but industry players are calling for the creation of better frameworks and policies that will help attract climate finance to the country. European Investment Bank says low-income countries lack standardization regulation that support climate financing, adding that awareness on climate change metrics should be prioritized. The bank says incentives to develop innovative financial instruments such as green bonds, blue bonds, resilience bonds and transactions using carbon credits ought to be put in place.
The European Investment Bank, as a climate bank, is very keen to help the transition from some of these governments by offering blended finance. What is blended finance? It's a mix of grants and loans for technical assistance, guarantees, investment grants that will facilitate this transition towards clean energy, so that the ability of the governments in order to absorb the investments that are being made both by the public sector and the private sector can be acceptable and can be sustainable in the long run.
Products of support and investment towards those kinds of projects is quite critical, and it can only work through a banking partner such as us. We retain strong belief that this sector has great potential and promise, and part of this conference is to be able to identify the next large significant projects, not just in Kenya and the region, but right across the continent, because we have a footprint right across Africa.
Transitioning towards a greener Kenya, a conversation that remains a top priority even as the country continues to lobby efforts against mitigating climate change. Reporting for Prime Edition, my name is Nduta Mokami.
The cost of fish farming is expected to reduce with the operationalization of the new fish feeds line under the Tunga Nutrition Limited, with a capacity to produce 25,000 metric tons of feed per year. Blue Economy and Fisheries Cabinet Secretary has lauded the move, saying it will go a long way in reducing the cost of fish feed by up to 15% and reduce order delivery turnaround time from 45 days to 24 hours, implying farmers would not need to tie cash on feed stocks.
Despite being of high nutritional value, fish farming is a capital-intensive venture owing to, among others, the high cost of fish feeds. Statistics from the Electronic Fish Market Information System indicates that Kenya still imports close to all of its protein feed inputs, including soya beans, mainly from neighboring countries, Uganda and Tanzania.
Now, when we realized that the fish market was ready for feeds, for fish feeds, we then decided that they should go ahead and set up a plant. The plant was started in 2017, and they have rapidly ran out of capacity. So that shows you that the market is actually ready.
Operationalization of the new fish plant under Tunga Nutrition Limited, with a capacity to produce 25,000 metric tons of feed per year, is seen as a game changer in lowering the cost of feed and increasing access to markets.
So now we should be able to produce 25,000 metric tons of fish feed, and the equipment is running. It's been running for the last 5-6 weeks, and the feed has undergone testing both at the laboratory level but also with fish at farm level, and we've seen some really good responses.
Blue Economy and Fisheries Cabinet Secretary Salim Vuria further noted that the implementation of the import levy would stem unfair competition from cheap fish imports.
We have introduced an import levy so that then it becomes expensive to import fish in our country. because we believe that we have capacity in the marine waters. We also have capacity in the inland waters. And I think it is important to assure the nation that going forward, we want to explore our full potential in the marine waters and also in the inland waters.
Government of Kenya projects that the total aquaculture production will increase from the current 20,000 metric tons per year to over 100,000 metric tons in the medium term and to over 450,000 metric tons in the long term by 2030 with a proportionate market value.
And I think going forward, we will have more interventions to make sure that fish eating culture in this country can change. Maybe going forward, we will look at even school feeding programs coupled with fisheries so that we can improve the ratings that we have as a country.
Cheza Loto Moto 1110.
Kwa majina naitwa Alex Odur, natoka Kamulu, na show leo imekuwa poa. Jua nenda 1000 wale wana kila
Cheza Shinda Ipana 25 number Wake Ansia Shili
It'd be very not of course
talk about in exactly what can do. Statistics there were threats in 2 million is more than direct centers very much for breaking down 7 million 22 to be done.
More that this just to this number say 40 micro for cyber 100% strong enough in the cybersecurity space, or what we call cyber resilient. They have the capability to prevent, to deter, and actually also recover from this kind of cyber threats. So this means that, you know, as organizations get to digitally, to make use of digital technologies, they need to also make sure that they are keeping themselves abreast with the technologies available so that they can make sure that they know what are those emerging trends. But of all the things, make sure that technology, in as much as it's being used to positively impact the business, let it not lead to harm in some sort of way. And this harm can really come from different or be viewed in different ways. One way could be financial loss, could be reputational harm, could be loss of intellectual property, or maybe lead to something that will then impact production in the organization. So we must keep ourselves, you know, secure from these kinds of breaches, and this means focusing on the two areas of the leaks or the breaches. 70% of the time, it's always the outsiders who can actually make sure that they have access to your data, that the data that you see as secure and confidential. But 30% of the time, we actually have your own internal actors either not being well skilled enough or probably being part of the leak as opposed to a hack or a breach of the intellectual property or data. Yeah.
So what does it take to prepare so that when that time comes, your staff are ready, or you just block these leaks that come into the organization?
First and foremost, it's awareness. So just as has been said, we talk of the bad and the good actors. So we have those that are actually always having it as an intention to hack or access secure or confidential data that belongs to an organization. With that in place, it then means that yourself or the organization that you run, you must then make sure that you've got the right skills. And these right skills will be in terms of the people that have got the skills, that understand what is really happening in the IT space in terms of what has happened before and has been resolved, because there is a lot of historical data that can be used on that front, but also what is happening in terms of emerging trends. So you must have that skill, which should be in-house, and that skill, whenever it's available in-house, they will always get to know what technologies are available, because we've got technologies that we can use in terms of cybersecurity frameworks that you can actually use so that you can be tracking what is happening out there in terms of cyber threats. These frameworks can also help you in terms of giving you the recommendation on the tools that you need to use so that you can identify if at all a leak or a breach occurs. And ultimately, if at all a breach or a leak occurs, then these technologies also help you to recover from these leaks.
Right.
And this can only happen if at all there is awareness. But ultimately, cybersecurity should never be viewed as the responsibility of the IT department or this technical team in the organization. There needs to be a cybersecurity awareness or culture within the entire organization. The organization where I work, which is Africa Data Centers, we make sure that right from the executive or the senior leadership team, we go through training, and we have to remind ourselves of what is happening in the digital space that we should be aware of.
I like that you mentioned that it starts from the executive level. When you look at decisions around cybersecurity, there has to be investment into it. Do you think that the corporate leadership is taking up its role in ensuring that they understand the role of cybersecurity and how it impacts the business, and also investing in it?
The best way, or rather the best approach at making sure that the business understands the need, the reason why they should invest on cybersecurity, is when you demonstrate what the financial loss is in case of a cybersecurity breach. So in terms of, I think it's Accenture's reports, they actually indicate that by 2025, we'll be losing to the tune of $10.2 trillion on cybersecurity in terms of financial losses attributed to cybersecurity breaches. Now, when you look at that financial loss and the fact that on average, any cybersecurity or phishing breach costs an organization probably $1.85 million. So when you look at it from that perspective, that if at all I don't invest to deter, prevent, and actually have a way to recover, if I don't secure the organization from this, then this is actually what I'm going to lose. And look at that loss in terms of financial value, which is extremely high. Look at it in terms of brand reputation or reputational harm. Look at it in terms of legal costs that you will probably have to run into. Look at it in terms of what you have to do to make sure that going forward you prevent those kinds of harms again from happening or affecting your organization. So we must make sure that, as opposed to being reactive, any organization, and this is why the senior leadership has to really take ownership of this, we must make sure that we are charting the course in terms of owning it, and by way of being proactive as opposed to being reactive. There is no room for us to be reactive in the cyberspace. If you take a reactive approach, then that will end up being very costly as opposed to the proactive approach.
Right. Yeah. When you talk about 1 million, or it could be more, we don't know the numbers for this year, the threats that there are, of course it means that every day people are being threatened in the cyberspace. So for organizations that maybe have not invested in cybersecurity, what would you tell them?
In the cyberspace, we say no one is actually 100% secure. So it's never about the technology and the skills that you've got, but it's just a matter of time. And that is how comes we say you must continuously be, learning what is happening out there. And so, by way of example, you are a financial institution or a banking institution in Kenya, then you must ask yourself, how exactly are you securing your customer confidential data? How are you making sure that when they are making use of the digital access to your services, that they cannot have any breach? So you must make sure that that information is secure enough. You are a medical institution or a hospital for that matter. You've got confidential patient data. As an organization, you've got your own billing data. As an organization, you've got your own, sort of medical research data that you're probably using based on the discipline that you see as a strength for your organization. And you don't want competition to get a hold of that. So there's a lot that happens, and confidential data differs from one organization to the other, but ultimately we must always make sure that we can ask ourselves, how can we make sure that we are continuously aware and we can proactively secure breaches or access to this kind of data. But as I said from the onset, it's at times never a hack or a breach, but can be an information leak. So you must also make sure that the employees that you have, do they have that moral high ground to understand that really as an organization, it's not really the act, but really it's not really the end result of the data going out there, but if at all the outcome of whatever you do leads to the information that is critical being handled or being accessed by a third party, then that will be wrong for the organization that I work for. I am an ambassador to the organization I work for, so I should really make sure that I'm part of the team and part of the system that secures these organizations' confidential data.
Right. Yeah. Cyber criminals, of course, are getting more sophisticated even as technology continues to just evolve. When you look at these breaches, you say it yourself that no one is 100% secure.
No.
When that happens, when the threat is actualized by the cyber criminal, what is an organization to do, and how do you recover from that?
So the first and foremost thing is to ask yourself whether there's a legal process or there's a legal procedure that you need to adhere to, because you do not want to, to sort of worsen the situation by way of not having followed the legal requirements. So let's say there's a legal framework in place. A legal framework will always define whether, number one, what is that private and confidential data? Because not everything can be classified as confidential. But then number two, a legal framework will also define do you need to disclose, and who do you need to disclose this to? So there's what we call responsible disclosure. If I am a banking institution or if I am a hospital and I've actually undergone a breach, then the other thing I need to ask myself based on the legal requirements at times is that legal responsible disclosure. And responsible disclosure means, number one, owning up. Because it doesn't help that you have suffered a breach and you're not hiding it. In fact, what happens at times is any organization, when they suffer a breach, it might end up being public knowledge while you haven't made a formal statement around it. So it's always very important that you make sure that you undergo your own internal process so that there is responsible disclosure, of course within your own communications framework, so that you make it known to the customers that yes, you still have everything under control. So that disclosure will then happen. But then what should then follow is as an assessment by your technical team. To what extent has this breach affected the organization? Could it be that this breach only touches on certain data assets and hasn't reached some other data assets? And in which case, if that happens, then you need to isolate what hasn't been impacted so that you avoid or prevent an extended breach or access to the rest of the organization's data. Last but not least is to see how to recover from it. So we've got tools that will then allow you, to recover from that actual data breach. That could mean, at times you've got ransomware, at times you've actually had identity theft, so an account has actually been taken up. In Kenya we have a live example, I think about a month or so ago, when a local academic institution or higher institution of learning had its social media page taken up by an external party, and they did everything possible to make sure that they recovered that and took ownership of it. So that is now the technical process to make sure that you can then use the various tools available so that you can take ownership or resolve that breach. But ultimately, every organization must always ask themselves, and that this is a responsibility that is owned by the leadership team for each and every organization, because we believe in that principle that it's not about us not getting hit, but when will we get hit? So we must ask ourselves, what are we then doing based on what has happened? Do we have some learnings from this? And for whatever learnings that we have, how are we preventing a recurrence of the same? And if at all beyond the recurrence, do we have something that is close to this that could also happen and affect the organization? So that whole process of doing what you will call maybe a postmortem of the entire incident, and making sure that the outcome of it is deterrence, and making sure that people are then more empowered to prevent happens or is in place.
Right. When you talk about the data space, how do you ensure business continuity?
Business continuity should, I will say in the present day, business continuity is something that has to happen by default. The reason I say this is business continuity, just like the term goes, it defines whether you want that business to be in existence for the long term, or you want the business to be in place for a short term. And I think COVID was a very good example as to why business continuity is something that we must have in place. Because business continuity is what made organizations during this COVID situation really reconsider ways of making sure that they can still be in business and be in touch with their customers, have their employees accessing the organization or offering the services that they still do, rethink of their business model and maybe come up with newer products and services in the market. All this forms part of business continuity. But on the digital space, if I was just to maybe focus on that, go to any organization that's making use of IT as it is at the moment. They must always ask themselves, so what happens if I am not going to access the primary source of the IT service that is supporting the organization? In which case, if that doesn't, if you aren't able to access the primary location, then you must ask yourself whether you've got a secondary location, and do you have access to that secondary location? So as we are Africa Data Centers, for the customers that we do have, be it the banking service providers, what we do is to support them so that they can have a business continuity plan and as alternate or disaster recovery location by way of bringing the IT infrastructure to be in our environment. So the over 50% banking institutions we have in Kenya, they see us as that good operator that can give them the same kind of security, availability, and reliable service that they have in their own spaces running from our environment. And that helps them in terms of business continuity by way of having a disaster recovery or an alternate site for their IT services.
Right. Let's talk about individuals.
Yes.
Of course, now people are on social media, you're online, you're purchasing things online as well. So there's a lot of data that is personal, but it is online. How do you ensure that you protect your data?
As an individual, first and foremost, again, I always say whatever we do as individuals actually cascades to what we do in the organizations. So as an individual, you must also then ask yourself, do you have what you see as very confidential and very, of higher value in whatever way to yourself? And whatever is of higher value or is very confidential to you, what happens? You must always then ask yourself, how have you stored it? We've got our mobile phones and we've got mobile devices that we're using to access digital services. You'll find people having access passwords that they put in place. You'll find people going a level ahead and having multiple factor authentication, having a way that beyond the password, which I have to memorize, can I maybe also add on top of it a biometric layer to make sure that there is authentication that it's the right person accessing it. If at all this device gets lost, do I have a way that the content that is in it, which is very critical to me, how do I secure it from access by a third party? And ultimately, can I recover it back? Identity theft is key, is critical, so let's also be aware of it. But closely related to it, and in our age of social media, social engineering is something that is really happening on a day-to-day basis. Social engineering just means one, getting to know what exactly Dan or Betty does, and what can I do so that I can make sure that when I am communicating with him or her, he can see me as that legitimate source of the information that I'm sharing with them. And ultimately, when I do that either through an email or through a social social media post or through a text message that has a hyperlink, you'll be clicking it with the assumption that this is coming from a trusted source. When you do that, it helps me probably access data on your phone or on your mobile device, or it helps me probably steal your identity, or it helps me then steal your data and hold it at ransom, asking you to make a payment so that I can then release it back to you, which at times never happens. What they then do is to just, once you've made the initial payment, they then make an assessment as to how much you value this information, and in which case then they'll just be telling you, we've actually just rethought of what we were talking about, and we need twice the payment before we can give you this data. So that awareness also has to happen, and thanks to what you are doing, because we need to evangelize and make sure that let's make use of technology. Let's not fear it, because the other thing I'm also really seeing in our space is the fear for technology. So I've seen those that have also sort of lost touch and discarded mobile devices that are regarded as smart and gone back to the Kenyan kabambe or whatever thing because they feel that is safe. But I think that is the wrong approach. You would rather make use of the smart device, but of course have that have that awareness that you need so that you can make use of it in a way that is going to be beneficial to you and not expose you to any kind of harm.
What would be your rallying call to industry players?
We must make sure that we are resilient amidst turbulence. Right after COVID, we are still seeing turbulences in various forms and shapes. In Kenya, we are talking energy price becoming something that is of concern to organizations like ourselves. The escalations on foreign exchange is something that is of concern to us. So we must make sure that ultimately, let's think long term. So that long-term orientation of our businesses, I think at the moment is something that we must sort of push far much higher in terms of our priorities, because it's going to be the differentiator between what Kenya does versus the rest of the countries in the African continent. And yes, we are known to be good in marathons, so I want to believe that really we've got that gene and the DNA to make sure that our organizations have that long-term impact to serve the digital economy in the African continent.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I think that's a great way to end the conversation.
Thanks a lot, Betty.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
I have been speaking with Dan Kwach, the Managing Director of the Africa Data Centers in charge of the East Africa region. We have talked about cybersecurity, what companies need to do to ensure that they are safe, and what you also need to do to ensure that you are staying safe in the cyberspace. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Betty Kiptum. Enjoy the rest of your viewing. Bye-bye.
Biggest odds in the world every day on selected matches. Make a decision. Mozart Bet.
Mkulima, wacha wasiwasi. Nyunyuzia mimea yako maji kwa njia rahisi na ya kisasa ya Elgon Magna Drip Irrigation Line. Kila mmea unapata maji ya kutosha kwa utaratibu. Elgon Magna Drip Irrigation Line, njia rahisi ya kunyunyizia mimea na inapatikana kwa bei nafuu. Elgon Kenya, transforming farms and lives through technology.
The cup with the golden ticket. Mozart Bet Cup, 2 million shillings. CAF Confederations Cup. Kuwa mshindi. Mozart Bet Cup.
Welcome back to KBC Prime Edition. My name is Karen Kibet. Let's now talk sports. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has reiterated the government's commitment to ensure the WRC Safari Rally Kenya remains in the global calendar. The Deputy President made the remarks when he flagged off this year's WRC Safari Rally Kenya at Uhuru Park grounds in Nairobi. The flag-off also marked the 70th anniversary of Safari Rally Kenya.
Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua singled out the high number of women drivers in this year's edition of the WRC Safari Rally Kenya, including those sponsored by Talanta Hela Initiative.
I welcome you to Kenya, the home one of the world's fastest, toughest but electrifying sport. That is why today the government remains the principal sponsor of WRC Safari Rally, which we celebrate as a rich Kenyan heritage.
The Deputy President noted that the government will continue funding the rally to ensure it remains in the global calendar. He commended the youngsters Hamza Anwar, Makreki Madi and Jeremiah Wahome, who have continued to post good results in various rallying events.
The WRC Safari Rally continues to be an important marketer of Kenyans' various tourist and cultural attractions. This is contributing immensely to about 6 billion pumped into the Kenyan economy annually through the rally's ecosystems.
His Excellency is flagging off 70th anniversary of the war.
Veteran driver Carl Flash Tundo, navigated by Team Jesop in a Skoda Fabia, were the first off the ramp, followed by reigning KNRC champion Karan Patel, navigated by Tosif Khan, Makreki Madi, navigated by Mwangi Kioni, Diego Dominguez of Paraguay, navigated by Logero Penet, and Hamza Anwar, co-driven by Adnan Dina.
Government is sponsoring 5 all-women crews to participate in this rally as part of this celebration. His Excellency the President took the opportunity of flagging off the 70th anniversary celebrations to launch the first ever rallying school in Kenya.
Kenya Broadcasting Corporation is the rights holder of WRC Safari Rally Kenya, and we invite Kenyans to be glued on their TV to watch the rally as we bring the 70th anniversary of rally in Kenya.
But they've got that trunking in the Toyota. After covering the Kasarani Super Special Stage, the cars will tackle Lolndia 1, Kendong 1 and Jodhamo 1 on Friday.
Identical pace to Lube at the first bit time. Slightly different.
Thank you, Karanza, for that detailed report. Still in rally, Estonian driver Oit Tanak took an overnight lead after posting the quickest time through 4.84 kilometers super special stage at Kasarani, quicker than 2021 Safari Rally winner Sebastian Ogier. Carl Tundo was the best placed Kenyan driver on day one in 17th position behind Daniel and Danny Sodo, who were 15th and 16th respectively.
After winning the super special stage today at Kasarani, Oit Tanak has a big task to claim the win in Naivasha. The Estonian completed the special stage, which covered 4.84 kilometers in 3 minutes, 14.3 seconds, beating Sebastian Ogier to the second spot.
Corners. They got down to a very hard, kind of compact surface. You can actually see a dark line as if there's rubber.
Reigning champion Kalle Rovanperä finished third with a time of 3 minutes and 16.7 seconds. Sardinia Rally champion Thierry Neuville completed the stage in the 4th position.
Yeah, he said last year he had a huge moment and he right up on 2 wheels. And
Kenya's Carl Tundo, who is taking part in the WRC2, finished the stage in the 17th position, 3 places ahead of Akif Verani.
Still in rally, the 2023 WRC Safari Rally enters day 2 tomorrow with the second leg set to be held in Naivasha and Elementaita. The drivers will tackle 6 sections tomorrow covering 125.54 kilometers. The event, which has attracted 34 drivers, started today with the first super special stage being held in Kasarani.
The
WRC Safari Rally enters day 2 tomorrow in Naivasha, with cars tackling 5 sections, which will cover a total distance of 125 kilometers across Loldia, Geothermal and Kendong. The first stage, Super Special Stage 2, will be 19.17 kilometers Loldia 1, then cars proceed to Geothermal for Super Stage 3.
Loldia is nice, we've done it a couple of times, nice and tight and twisty, very technical stage. Then going into Geothermal, very wide, open, flowing stages, very high risk though.
Maybe we'll start the day off dry, but it looks like it'll be raining in the afternoons, so I'm okay, welcoming all of them.
The Safari Rally Kenya is one of the 13 chapters in this year's World Rally Championships.
We just have to be very careful. You know, the road changes because of the weather. It might be dry now, and then tomorrow you wake up finding it wet.
The Super Special was amazing. It was quite fast, and the 2 jumps were just amazing.
At first, we were shaky, it was scary, but after doing the first rotation at Kasarani, it was really nice. Your girl won, at least you represented.
Loldia is a difficult stage, gets dug up because we are running at the back. So, but yeah, I mean, it should be okay. We're just going to take it as it comes and see what we can do now.
I think we have a good setup. We've worked a little bit on the car yesterday during shakedown, so I think the car feels very good. Hopefully now we can be able to not push but drive on a good, sensible rhythm.
8 Kenya Rally drivers are taking part in the event, with Karan Patel, Carl Tundo, Akif Virani, Piero Konobio and Saman Sain taking part in the WRC2, while Hamza Anwar, Jeremiah Wahome and Makri Kimathi taking part in the WRC3.
Good fun. Nice to get a feel of the car in competition, and took it easy. You're not going to win a rally on a super special, but good fun, and the track was awesome.
8-time world champion and part-time driver Sebastian Ogier, winner in 2021, returns to action driving Toyota GR Yaris. It's all systems go ahead of this year's edition of the WRC Safari Rally, with 8 Kenyan drivers battling out tomorrow in a 125 kilometers competitive session. Who will emerge victorious in this year's edition? For Prime Edition Sports, I'm Daniel Mwendwa.
Thank you, Daniel Mwenda, for that report, and enjoy yourself while at it working. Thank you. Moving on, French driver Pierre-Louis Loub says he felt a sense of responsibility when he drove President William Ruto during the 5-kilometer Loldia shakedown on Wednesday.
Okay, I'm all ready. Dressed up. A bit of adrenaline.
Asked how he felt about the experience of having the head of state as his co-driver.
Okay, ready? Ready.
The 26-year-old son of former European rally champion Veil Lobey said President William Ruto was on the navigator's seat, and shortly after the exhilarating run, said this after a feel of the spectacular challenge in a Priority 1 car.
It was a very nice moment. I feel a bit of responsibility when he was on my side. Not so comfortable, I would say, but he did it.
I didn't know people were enjoying this much being in the cars. You know, we always watch from outside. For the first time, I've watched from inside, and it is amazing. It is awesome. This thing is crazy. Yeah. But it's an experience you cannot forget. I mean, the sheer speed, you can hardly see the road, you can hardly see the bend, and these guys are really professional. It is out of this world, and it's a life-changing adventure.
The Priority 1 rally cars have super strong protective cells surrounded by a roll cage in which the crews sit in. The crew strap themselves in with 6-point wide strap safety belts, similar to those used in military fighter planes. The cars go for between 50 to 70 miles per hour on twisty sections and can go up to 100 miles per hour on the straight.
If you ask me whether I want to do this again, I'm not sure. Because it's quite something. But I think it is. It speaks to training, people who are professional at what they do. And I want to say the men who do this are real champions.
Lube is ranked 13th on the World Rally Championship and is taking part in his first safari rally. Bernard Okumu, Primetime Edition.
And Bernard Okumu's report brings us to the end of the sports news tonight. I'll see you shortly right after this break.
It is the cup with the golden ticket. Mozart Bet Cup, 2 million shillings. CAF Confederations Cup. Kuwa mshindi. Mozart Bet Cup.
Karen, thank you for all the sports action. I just have a comment, someone saying that they were actually just waiting for you, not me, you, because of the sports action. What should we expect tomorrow when it comes to the WSR Safari Rally?
It's very special this year because KBC, your true sports partner, will be airing 5 stages of the 2023 Safari Rally. We started airing it today and we will air it all the way through to the 25th of June. So it's special just seeing that we are in the calendar, and yes, we do hope that when this particular series ends, that we will still be there in the next 3 years to come in the calendar, that we won't be omitted.
Yes, so yes, it's going to be an action-packed weekend.
Yes.
And KBC has it live for you until Sunday. From me and the rest of the team, we do want to wish you a very good night.
Good night. My name is Karen Kibet.